We can't hear you, Mataji.
We'll just do a little kirtan and then get into the narration. Hare maybe we'll do a little recap of where we are in the pastime. I think we'll need wait a second. Just give us a minute. Finding it difficult to, but it comes, there are things that comes. Let's see what this does.
If you're at home thinking about your financial plan,
I don't know why they have these. Yeah, that's actually huge, maybe. Okay. So this pastime starts with how everyone's actually busy decorating their homes for the festival of Deepavali, and how Mother Yashoda is lying in her bed with her son, and then she wakes up and she wants to churn butter for Krishna, even though she has so many people who can assist her. But she really relishes the service of being able to churn this butter herself. And then it continues how we talked about how Krishna wakes up by her beautiful singing, and then says that he wants to stop her churning and actually be able to drink the milk from her breast. And so he comes and he, when Mother Yashoda sees Krishna, she takes him on her lap and starts to nurse him. But then there is this big pot of milk that is actually on the stove. And while she's nursing, she hears that how the milk is actually going to boil over. So she leaves Krishna, because that milk is actually very special and it's meant for Krishna's pleasure. So she leaves Krishna and she rushes to the kitchen to remove that pot of milk from the stove. And that really angers Krishna, right? Because he was really happily nursing and drinking milk from her breast. And so we saw how Krishna's anger is really at the peak. And then he takes a stone. So he sees some stones that he had collected the previous day. He picks it up and he strikes the bottom of the churn with its pointed edge. Once, twice, thrice, and then the churn breaks into two. And so when that happens, all of the yogurt spills over out of that pot. And he starts to spill all of this yogurt in all different places, determined to satisfy his hunger at all cost. I think we left it here, so we'll continue. So now we're going to continue. As he entered into the storeroom, he saw the birds craning their necks and watching him. He threw them a glance and said, "Oh, forget it. If you want to be fed here in the future, be sure that you do not see anything." Obedient, the birds turned their backs to Krishna. "What an eventful morning," one of them said. The other one said, "Shall we peek?" The third one replied, "Not unless you want to end up like the sons of Maharaj Sagar." Krishna entered the storeroom and closed the door behind him. It was pitch dark. Krishna lit up the storeroom by invoking his divine effulgence. He took a grinding mortar and climbed on top of it and finally got what he wanted. So after breaking the churn, he actually gets up on this mortar and gets freshly churned butter, yesterday's freshly churned butter. The taste of the butter was incredible, but the truth of the matter was that it was not what butter was normally like. It was Mother Yashoda's love for him in the form of dairy. The sensation of dipping his hand into the butter was the same as being held in her embrace. And the taste was the taste of her breast milk. Was it butter? No, it was more like Mother Yashoda. This was another reason why he always stole his neighbor's produce and not his mother's. Since their produce lacked the intensity of Yashoda's love, it lacked the same controlling power. He could therefore freely plunder their homes without fear of becoming a docile do-gooder and laughing stock of his friends. As he continued to relish the special treat, his fear eventually became filled with fear and doubt. What will happen when Mother sees the mess I have made? And what if my friends come just now and tattle on me? What if some neighbors use this as evidence of their complaints to date? Who knows what she will do? So he panicked. He who is feared by fear personified, blanched, and his dark blue complexion turned a pale sky color. Tears continued to roll down his cheeks and his limbs shook. The rolling tears washed away mascara from eyes, and when he rubbed them, it spread all over his face. What will I do? How will I escape? So this is the amazing thing, right? That we approach Krishna so that we can actually become fearless, right? And it's described that fear personified himself is afraid of Krishna, and yet Krishna is actually afraid of Mother Yashoda's wrath. Yes, yes. So there is.
This is a verse from Bhagavatam, Queen Kunti's prayers, where she remembers this particular pastime that actually happened in front of her eyes, and she sings this beautiful verse to describe Krishna's great fear that he's experiencing in anticipation of the chastisement. So she says, Gopya dade tvai kitagasidam tavat yate dashashu kalilanjana sambhamaksham Vaktram niniya bhava bhavanaya stitasya samam vimohayati bhirapi yadviveti. The translation of this verse is, My dear Krishna, Yashoda took up a rope to bind you when you committed an offense, and your perturbed eyes overflooded with tears, which washed the mascara from your eyes. And you were afraid, though fear personified is afraid of you. This sight is bewildering to me. In the meantime, Yashoda finished her work in the kitchen and muttered to herself, This milk is now boiled to completion. It's done. She wondered, what is he doing? Then thought, he's such a good boy. But that was hardly the case. She called out, I am just coming, dear. I am just coming. But Krishna was not there to hear. When Yashoda finally returned, she stopped dead in her tracks at what she saw. Vishnu, what is this? What has happened? Where is he? Yashoda scanned the devastation in shock, thinking, who would dare to do such a thing? Her heart replied, not but your son. But he has never done such a thing before. He has done it now. I have tried so hard to teach him good behavior. I know he is very clever, Now he has become a pandita in churn breaking. You may be a pandit in breaking pots, but I am a pandit in catching butter thieves. Yashoda wandered around looking for Krishna, and lo and behold, in the courtyard below, she saw he who yogis fail to see in their hearts, even after many, many lifetimes of penance, standing on large upturned mortar, his lotus eyes rolling in agitation. Krishna was systematically handing butter to nearby monkeys.
So this is actually another really significant point that that the yogis, they actually spend so much time just trying to seek Krishna within their heart, right? And yet they're not able to. It's very, very difficult. And here Krishna was standing on a large upturned grinding mortar, and he was handing this butter to the monkeys. It is also described that in Lord Ram's pastimes, the monkeys actually assisted Lord Ramachandra. So when he appeared as Krishna,
The voice is breaking, Mataji.
he fed them, delicious butter.
Because in Lord Ramachandra's pastime, the monkeys did a lot of hard work for Lord Ram, and Lord Ram wanted to pay them back with some nice stuff. So in Krishna Lila, they got the rewards without any work.
So she continues, I cannot believe it, she whispered. She thought by associating too much with those mischief mongers, my son has become as mischievous as the monkeys. So the king is holding court, rewarding his ministers for their counsel. As he fed the monkeys, Krishna looked to the left and to the right as transcendental fear overcame him. When is she coming? From which direction will she come? Krishna struggled to contain fear in his mind. Run, higher, flee. But Krishna thought my friends would ridicule me if I flee. Instead, he thought of a plan to become invisible. He would become smaller than the smallest and enter into an atom. Not difficult for him, right? All the mystic powers actually come from Krishna. There were many such atoms in the mortar, and Yashoda would never find him there. Turning his eyes inward, he entered the path of perfected mystics. After all, he was their guru. Nothing happened. So isn't that amazing that all these different mystic powers are actually, they all emanate. When Krishna actually blesses the yogis, and that's how they get their mystic power. But here, when Krishna tries to apply that same mystic power to become invisible so that Mother Yashoda cannot catch him, he is unsuccessful. So then the question that comes up is, but what power was superior to Krishna's mysticism? So it's something to think about, right? What is that power that is greater than Krishna's mysticism and Krishna's supremacy? So it was the power of Mother Yashoda's love that prevented Krishna from disappearing. As Yashoda approached Krishna, she found a stick against the wall and thought, I will not hit him, but I will give him a big scare. In the meanwhile, wind whispered softly in his ears, O Lord, she whom you cannot see or hear, but fear most is near. Flee, flee, flee. Krishna spun around and saw a stick in Mother's hands. He knew that punishment was inevitable. But a stick? Is she actually holding a stick? So now the stick, so we talked about this last time, right? That how everything in the spiritual realm is sentient and it's fully conscious. So now the stick is offering a prayer. It's saying, Oh Lord, you are the supreme chastiser and I am your instrument. I am helpless in the hands of your mother. Please do not take any offense. But Krishna had no time for pardons. Is she really coming at me with a stick? The wind answered, Run, run. The cane added, If the queen can raise a stick, she can also use it. Krishna needed no further advice. he ran. So
Krishna was perplexed at his own conduct. Why am I running away? Even the yogis cannot catch me. Why should I fear this gopi? Then he answered his own question. Because she holds the secret of unconditional love. That love can control, catch, and punish me. As Mother Yashoda ran after Krishna, she thought she could catch him with the very next step. Yet she continued to remain one step away. While she was supreme love personified, he was supreme independence personified. She called out, "Stop running! Stop! O foremost of the world's thieves! Stop, you thief and liar! How dare you run from your mother?" He responded, "I will stop if you drop your stick. If you are afraid of my punishment, then why did you break my butter pot and ransacked the storehouse?" Krishna said, "O mother, O sinless one, please drop that stick. I'll come to you. I'll never do this again." Yashoda hid the stick behind her back and said, "I have thrown it away." Deceived by her words, Krishna slowed down. With Yashoda still running at full speed, she wrapped her right hand around his right wrist. "Now you are caught, you rascal." Unattainable by the prayers of Brahmanas, the speculation of Jnanis, or the meditation of yogis, Krishna was now arrested by the love of Mother Yashoda.
So this is, in this very beautiful section, we see that it is practically impossible for anyone to actually catch Krishna. And yet Krishna agrees to be caught. So in the same way as practitioners of bhakti, we're also trying to actually catch Krishna, right? But how does anyone catch Krishna? It is only through this intense mood of love and devotion. And Krishna describes that in the Bhagavad Gita, that only by this unmotivated devotional service can I actually be known. And not just that he can be known, but he can actually be, he can enter into our heart and be captured. And I think we spoke about this very beautiful song where Bilva Mangal Thakur calls Krishna a great thief. And he says that I'm going to capture you and I'm going to imprison you in my heart, right? So this is actually what we are trying to do, is to capture someone, capture the one that can never be captured. But before we proceed, so this is a good point of like, it's a good place to take a pause because the story continues. It's not ended. Mother Yashoda has only so far just caught Krishna, but her intention is much bigger. She wants to actually bind Krishna with ropes. So that's the meaning of the word Damodar, right? That one who is bound by ropes. So let's see if she actually succeeds. But before we proceed, we'd like to hear any reflection from you and hear from you anything that you heard so far that that moved you or amazed you in some way. And then we'll continue the story. What happens? Because the real fun has only just begun, actually.
Yeah, the fact that Krishna is afraid, even though that's the part that always surprises me, because when he is the epitome of fearlessness, but he's still afraid. So that's the power of love.
Yeah. Yep, that is the power of love. That how Mother Yashoda is able to control the one who's the controller of everything and everyone. This is a form of God that we never get to see, right? Anybody else?
So this story reminds me of one of the anecdote that Prabhupada, it happened to Prabhupada. I think one of the devotees in US, not devotee, one person came to Prabhupada and asked, can I be equal to God? And Prabhupada said, no, you can't be equal to God, you can be greater than God. And look at this picture, how Mother Yashoda is trying to hit God, so you can be greater than God. So this reminds me of that anecdote that happened to Prabhupada.
Such good.
Wonderful point.
So I think Sri Krishna is making this drama to teach us what is the power of love and what is the power of attachment.
Beautiful.
Very nice.
No better person to teach what love means than Krishna himself.
Mother Yashoda has butter in one hand and then stick in the other hand. It kind of reminds me that the butter is love, but along with love, she also has that the stick which reminds us of discipline that should go along. You know, even Mother Yashoda trying to discipline Lord Krishna is like reminder that love and discipline go hand in hand. Like.
Yeah, Krishna definitely needs to be disciplined.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, I was thinking like when a CEO of a company, he goes to an office, all the employees under him, they're scared of him, right? Because he's a boss. But the same CEO, when he goes to home, he's scared from the kids many times, like in a playful manner. So in similar way, I'm seeing this situation, like he's the CEO of everything, but when he's in love for his mom, he's the love takes over.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, Krishna is not the CEO of Vrindavan at all. There are far bigger CEOs in Vrindavan than Krishna is. Yashoda is a CEO. Radharani is the biggest CEO in Vrindavan. Krishna is just like a playful thing in their hands, and he just dances according to their tunes.
He forgets. I mean, as we read through now, we'll see how they don't care whether he's God. To them, he's just for Mother Yashoda, Krishna is a boy that she needs to take care of.
Yeah.
And he needs to be disciplined and taught the right lesson and and all that. You know, it's quite amazing.
I had a question, Mataji, Prabhuji. How is Mother Yashoda's love any different from love of a mom for his child? Like love, your love for Nimai. How is it different from Yashoda's love for Krishna?
All the love in this material world is a very pale reflection of the original love that a devotee actually has for Krishna. What we are experiencing here is a very perverted and a sort of a semblance, if at all, of that original love. Because in that love, there is absolutely no desire for any kind of gratification. So all the devotees, when they love Krishna, and actually Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami describes this difference. And he says the difference between prema, which is love, and kama, which is lust, which is what we experience in this material world, and it passes off as love. Of course, Prabhupada also says that a mother's love is the purest thing in this world.
As close
as it can come. But still, the difference is like that between iron and gold.
I guess in this material world, any kind of love between mother and son, or lover and lover, it's all based on bodily identification and bodily attachment. I love my child, or I love my whoever, because of this bodily relationship. And if this bodily relationship is not there, then that love is also not there. Or any material condition can come and break that relationship, right? Even between um, parent and child, many times we see in this world that that loving relationship is disturbed or weakened, or broken even because of the external situations. So what we see, the motherly love or any kind of love in this material world, is a drop, a tiny, tiny drop of the original love that Mother Yashoda has. And through this pastime, we learned that how to aspire for that love that actually wins Krishna over. So Krishna is won by love, and not by anything else. I guess this is what we learned from this.
Yeah. Should we proceed? Is there anything else? Okay, so we'll continue. So now she's finally caught Krishna, right? So as Yashoda held Krishna's wrist, momentarily reigned, mother and son realized that a significant page had turned in the chapter of the morning's pastimes. He was caught. How the next chapter was scripted would depend a lot on him. Would he confess? Would he apologize? Would he beg for clemency? Because they were just outside the palace gates, Yashoda and Krishna were no longer alone. The palace guards, though at attention, were witness to everything being said and done. Since neither the birds nor the monkeys could see from the palace, they all moved to the trees nearby. As for Krishna, disinclined to surrender, he wasn't going to surrender. He tested Yashoda's grasp. She held fast. Trembling, partly in anger, partly in fear, he remained unwilling to admit any guilt. Mother Yashoda repeatedly tried to look into his face, but whenever she did, Krishna turned away and he wiped the remnants of yogurt from his mouth and body. Krishna reasoned, the less the evidence, the weaker her argument, the more moderate my punishment. Finally, Yashoda had enough of his antics, and exposing the stick she was hiding, she waved it in front of him. Do you see this, king of rascals? If you do, then do not try to run away again. The stick, she still has it. Krishna was shocked she had cheated. But Yashoda was defiant. How else can a thief be caught other than by crooked means? So then Krishna really, gets very, very scared when he sees that stick in Mother Yashoda's hand. There was no point in pleading innocence. Panicky at the prospect of being caned, he reacted the way an ordinary child would. I'm just going to skip. So finally, he was thinking, he was trying to contemplate in his mind what he should do, whether he should admit to his mistake, but then he realized there's no point because Mother Yashoda has this stick, and all the people actually already have already gathered. So as the Vrajvasis, they all started to converge. Krishna felt increasingly humiliated because here he was caught by Mother Yashoda. She had him in her grasp. She had a stick in her hand. And at this point, if she surrendered, then he was afraid that because he is the leader of many friends and he held a position of respect among them. So were the boys to appear now, he would become the butt of their jokes and dishonored as their figurehead. So that all the other boys, they would make fun of him because if they saw him, sort of giving in, so then he has to find another way out. So then what he does is, at the confluence of many thoughts and emotions, Krishna was overwhelmed. After all, he was just a little boy, and so he did what all little boys would do, which is he began to cry, sob uncontrollably. Krishna shivered and perspired. His heart hammered and his breathing slowed. So this is very beautiful. So to free himself from suffering, Krishna tried repeatedly to conceal himself in the folds of his mother's skirts. And having no other shelter than tears, Krishna cried and cried and cried. And Krishna's tears mixed with the ointment around his eyes, leaving Yamuna black streaks down his face, chest, and belly. His tears flowed in such volume that they formed a pool-sized lake at his feet. As Krishna cried, the shores of the pond grew and eventually reached his mother's toes. Yashoda was startled. What is this pond of tears? Is it some witchcraft or another display of this rascal's mystic powers? Actually, Krishna's crying was a symptom of his existential love for her. His sattvika bhava of shedding tears. This is very beautiful. This is a very beautiful point that's coming up. That saints say that when under the influence of love, the life force comes in contact with the water element, the result is tears. And since Krishna was the reservoir of all universal water, his crying could produce oceans. But then Yogamaya, so Yogamaya is the orchestrator of all the different pastimes. So she thought, oh, this should not happen because a display of majesty. So this is one of the things about Vrindavan is that Yogamaya makes sure that there is no display of any kind of majesty, because if there is any display of majesty or opulence or reverence, then that would take away this mode of intimacy within the heart of his devotees. So she realized that if there is a display of this majesty like a crying ocean, then that would hinder this pastime of sweetness, because wherever there is majesty, then it creates a sense of formality, right? Sense of reverence. So would you like to just...
And so Yogamaya moderated Krishna's crying to that of an ordinary child and imperceptibly dried up the lake of tears at his feet. So it appeared like just an ordinary child who was crying. Yashoda Devi cleared her vision. Was there a pond of tears there or not? With more pressing issues at hand, she relegated the appearance and disappearance of the lake of tears to an illusion of her mind. Again, she had important things to do, like discipline Krishna. Again, the introduction to such discipline would be to show him indifference. She would give him the cold shoulder. Okay.
Because there are parts to it.
You want to do it?
Yeah, because... So now, of course, Mother Yashoda is thinking that if I take pity on him, if I save him from a scolding, he will become habituated to bad habits and grow up to be a wrongdoer. So now she doesn't want to just leave him alone. But Mother Yashoda, so now Krishna is really trying to sort of evoke some kind of sympathy from Mother Yashoda by feigning some excessive fear and by showing that he's actually just really, really scared of her. But Mother Yashoda was no stranger to her son's antics. She would not be hoodwinked by his show of distress, be it real, feigned, or both. He had broken her favorite churn, vandalized the storeroom, and run away from her. Enough was enough. Now it was his turn to hear about and take responsibility for his errant ways. And so this is a nice section again, where Mother Yashoda now finally, so the demigods are actually speaking and they're watching this whole pastime. So they're saying that perfected yogis can never quite reach him. And yet one of these gopis has caught the Supreme Lord just by running after him. And so the other one says, but Krishna invokes fear even in the likes of Mahakaleshwar and Yamaraj, and Mother Yashoda makes him tremble in fear like a stick. And so now Mother Yashoda, holds Krishna's chin and turns his head towards, trying to catch his elusive eyes with her gaze. And then she lets loose a torrent of expletives. She calls him different names. So
she calls all these names to Krishna. O Ashanta, which means O restless one. Roshagrasta, one swallowed by anger. Mugdha Prakrita, a greedy one. Vanara Priya, O friend of the monkeys. Graha Lubdhaka, O house thief. Why have you brought ill fame on your lineage with such bad qualities? Krishna was hurt. Why did she have to call him names like friend of the monkeys? He tried to pull away, and Yashoda raised the stick. Stand where you are and take your medicine. I will punish you. And that punishment includes not being able to see your friends or to play. Krishna cowered in the fear of the stick. Would she really hit him? Or she would not. Although Yashoda wanted to correct her son, there were limits that she would not cross, and striking her son was forbidden territory. But she would not hesitate to make believe that she would.
So Krishna thought, it never crossed my mind that you would raise a stick at me. Out loud he said, I promise I will not do it again, but please drop it. But Mother Yashoda would not drop it. So then she says, promises, promises. What is the value of a liar's promise? No, you will not do it again because you will have no access to butter. What? He thought, no more butter? And then she says, and no more yogurt. No yogurt either? And then she says, I'll tie you up. And for the time being, you cannot play with your toys or your companions. Friend of monkeys, reform and stop your mischief. There it was again, that friend of monkeys jibe. Krishna pleaded, Mother, I shall not do it again. Mother Yashoda could maintain her peak for only so long. Having vented her frustration and seeing the charm in his sad face, she felt her resolve weaken. But then she thought, but he should not see me compromise. So then now, Krishna again cries and says, please do not hit me. And so Mother Yashoda laughs in response, and by so doing drew the attention of the nearby guards. King of thieves, from where did you inherit your thieving ways? Do you think your father and his lineage are highwaymen? Krishna shook his head. Or liars? Krishna shook his head. Then tell me, O wayward descendants of saints, how was the churn broken? So this is a very amazing section where Krishna's going to be so clever. So Mother Yashoda is saying, how was the churn broken? So tell me the truth. So Krishna rolled his eyes in thought and he said, through an act of God, Mother, it was your karma. Yashoda was amazed. Where did he get such ideas from? So, oh yes, of course. And who gave birth to those monkeys? Yashoda pointed to the simians in the tree. Was that God too? Krishna nodded. Ultimately, the same Lord who created them also directed me to feed them. And could you not wait to enjoy the butter until after it was offered to God? Or do you think you are God? Or is the butter more tasty when it is stolen and unoffered? She was right on both counts. But what could he say? Staring at the ground, Krishna drew lines in the sand with his toe. Seeing his confusion, Mother Yashoda's heart melted. Chuckling, she said, be good now and tell me the truth. No more stories. Hearing her voice soften, Krishna looked up, and for the first time since being caught, he looked into Yashoda's face. Mother and son marveled at the beauty of each other's eyes. So tell me. So then now Krishna is making another story. So he says, Mother, you ran with such energy to save the boiling milk that your anklets struck the churn and pierced it. Why blame me? Thereafter, the Lord inspired some monkeys to raid your storeroom and steal its contents. Why fault me? So Yashoda Devi was mesmerized by Krishna's eloquence, even though every word that he said was a lie. But magician that he was, Krishna spoke in a way that made his lies sound like a symphony of sweetness. In other words, what he said paled in comparison to how he said it. And then he continues, it's not over yet. So then he says, then as I was trying to save the yogurt from the monkeys, you attacked me with a stick. So he's taking the path of being like on the offensive, right? So you attacked me with a stick, treating me as if I were a common thief. Without pity, you chased me like a shadow, even though I was frightened to death. So then Yashoda just shook her head in amazement. How has this boy become such a honey-tongued spinner of yarns? Surely he will become a political advisor in the court of a great king. So then she's feeling some remorse for hurting Krishna's feelings. So she says, "Oh, most eloquent of storytellers, oh, best of thieves, though you were born in an aristocratic family, by befriending monkeys, you have taken on their qualities. What a shame." It just goes on and on. I mean, this. Uh, um, I don't know what we should. Yeah, there's a lot more. So it's already 8:26.
We can come back. And
We can
finish it
come back
time.
next Friday. We'll talk about how Mother Yashoda.
Or maybe on Wednesday we can finish this fast time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because it's right around that. Yeah, we can do that.
Or Monday maybe.
Yeah, we'll see. But we just want to get your feedback. How do you like this? I mean, is this something that you would like to continue hearing?
Definitely.
Love it. Love it.
You love it? Okay. What about the others?
Me too.
You like it too?
Yeah.
Okay. So we can continue. Would like to continue this?
Yes. My mom used to read these stories to me when I was a little kayachi also.
I know. It's like, it just it warms your heart. And just to see how, this is actually what this process of bhakti has to offer to us. This opportunity to connect with the Supreme Lord in such an intimate manner, and to love Him without any tint of reverence, right?
And also to see Krishna, because when we think of God, we think of Him as the Almighty, and then He has no weak spots, and He's not vulnerable. He's always like the best of everything. But here we see Krishna in a very tight spot. We see His weaknesses, we see His vulnerabilities, we see how He gives in, and He's afraid. And that really makes Him very endearing, that how the Supreme Lord becomes a plaything in the hands of His devotees. And He loves to do that. And that is the same access that any devotee can have to Krishna in this loving relationship.
And that is the reason why bhakti is so rare. Because Krishna actually offers liberation very easily. He offers mystic perfections very easily. But the reason why bhakti is actually very difficult is because when he offers bhakti to someone, then he becomes a captive. He becomes controlled by that person. So that's why bhakti is actually given very cautiously, right?
Yeah,
very rarely.
It is said in the Bhagavatam, Muktim Dadapi Karavichit Smana Bhakti Yogam. Krishna says that I give mukti very easily, even with a little bit of practice of some yoga system, you can get mukti. But bhakti yoga, Krishna doesn't give very easily, because bhakting somebody bhakti means that Krishna has to give himself to that person. And Krishna is very careful, because he doesn't want to be just taken advantage of by anybody.
Delia, any thoughts? Shashi, Prabhu, Eric?
I think that's very beautiful what Lokadaksha just said. Yeah.
Yeah, but the same thing. Sorry.
You're muted.
Yeah, I was saying that, I was thinking the same thing, that, Krishna is so much more relatable with these stories. You can, it feels like a very human-like, qualities that, that we see in our kids or, our relationships, that we can totally relate to that and feel that, you're closer to him because of that.
Yeah, and that is actually the very purpose of these pastimes. When he appears in this material world in the Bhagavad Gita, because there is a connection. Everything that we are studying is actually connected to the Bhagavad Gita. So in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, yada yada hi dharmashya. He says, whenever there's a decline of religion and a predominant rise of irreligion, at that time I appear. And then he says that to annihilate the miscreants and to establish the principles of religion and to protect the devotees. But actually, the real reason why he appears is so that he can attract our hearts by these pastimes.
Yeah, the paritranaya sadhunam really means not just to protect, because protection can be provided by Krishna not even being present. His material energy itself is sufficient to provide all the protection to the devotees. But the main reason he appears is to melt and attract the heart of his devotees and make himself available. By doing so, he's also it's like a stage. Krishna creates this show, this grand show, and everybody can watch it even for eternity. and then people can get attracted to, yeah, this is who God is,
Yeah.
and we can become attracted to him.
Also, another thing that it does is that in the material world, all of these different rasas that we experience, right? Whether it's the rasa of parental love, or it's the rasa of conjugal love or friendship, they are all limited in their ability to completely satisfy the self. So generally, when people think of the spiritual realm, they think that it's just like a boring place where nothing happens and where God is just completely bored, and all he does is he just sits there and watches everyone, and he makes all these chess moves and moves people around, and that is the only source of pleasure. But actually, the spiritual realm is a happening place, and he has a party going on there. And so the whole idea is to demonstrate that we can actually, the happiness that we are looking for, that rasa that we are looking for, is actually perfectly one can experience that in one's relationship with Krishna. And Prabhupada says that in the material world we have these ball dances, and people come together and they engage in all kinds of dancing. And he says the original ball dance is in the spiritual world, where Krishna engages in the rasa dance with all the gopis, and so like that, you see that all these relationships actually exist in their purest and in their spiritual form. And what we have here is just the material counterpart to it.
And I guess, as you're saying, I was thinking, because the material world is a boring place, everything becomes very boring once we try it for a couple of times, a few times. Even the most exciting toy, even the most exciting car, or the highest opulence, it becomes very boring. So, and the living entity can get discouraged that, oh, I have achieved the highest and still I'm bored. So now what? And where do I go from here? It can become a very depressing thought. Like, and Krishna showing all these activities in the spiritual world, he's inspiring us and giving us hope that, yeah, this world is a boring place, but don't get discouraged. Your real home is very exciting. And once you get there, you'll never be bored. You'll always be, there will always be some kind of adventure, some kind of loving exchange that you'll be engaged in.
And yeah, we see that, right? That one of the reasons why we love to watch movies or watch TV shows is because we're looking for rasa. Ultimately, all our quest in our life is actually this desire to taste some rasa.
Yeah, like thriller or comedy or horror
or love,
or
romance, whatever.
Drama.
Yeah, Delia, go ahead.
So Krishna was trying to get away from Mother Yashoda, and he couldn't because it disappeared into an atom because of her love, right? And it was challenging for me to understand this because it doesn't seem like such a loving expression when your parent is coming after you to chastise you. I mean, I understand that to love someone is also to guide them and help them grow and everything. But when my parents have been, when I knew I hit my sisters or something and my parents were coming for me, I wasn't like, oh, they love me so much, even though they do. So I don't know. This is my first time hearing the pastimes ever. So there are some things that are just like a little unusual to me still, but I'm enjoying the telling of it.
Yeah, it's true, and this is actually another thing about the spiritual realm, where everything, even the separation. See, I mean, you're talking about being chastised. How is that a cause of ecstasy? For me, what has been very difficult to grasp my head around is how can separation be a source of ecstasy? So in the spiritual realm, because it is an absolute platform, so stealing is ecstatic, and this entire act, it's a Lila, it's a play. Sometimes when children play, mothers play with their children, right? And so they go peekaboo, or they do all kinds of things, and it's even though it's real in one sense, but in another sense it's just divine Lila. So it's Krishna is not, I mean, it's hard to speak about this without at one level it's like Krishna is actually afraid, but on the other hand, I mean, who can really
yeah, but he's really afraid at that moment. He's really afraid. It's not that I had the same question that God is all powerful, and when he's afraid, he's just doing an acting. He's just acting out being afraid and acting out crying, and the answer is no. He's actually afraid, and he's just
way it is with Krishna, this yoga maya potency to cover him.
Yeah.
Just like when I want to play with someone, then I cover my eyes with my hands, right? but it's my hands that are covering my eyes. And so I can, at any moment, I can remove my eyes. It's completely within my control. So it's a divine play. So yes, in the material world, there are many things when we are going to hear about from the spiritual realm. There are many things that we cannot really project the material world onto the spiritual world.
Yeah.
But how is it that that's an exchange of love? How is it that when the gopis experience separation, then they are in the highest, that mood of separation is considered to be the highest pinnacle of ecstatic love. How is that? So I think this is going to be our struggle as we go through this process, where many things are beyond our
I guess just to understand this love in the spiritual realm. And I was just thinking about your question, Delia, that how could Krishna feel Yashoda's love when she's chasing him with a stick, and when she's upset at him, and he could not disappear because of this control of love. At this point, Yashoda's love becomes much more powerful than Krishna's godliness, and in his power as God, all his energies, they just become like, we can't do anything. Krishna has inconceivable energies, right? It says in the scriptures, Parasya Shakti Vivideva Shruyate, that he has unlimited energies and they can do anything he wants to be done. Nothing can stop him just by his willpower. But in front of Mother Yashoda, all these energies of Krishna, they just say, we can't do anything. This love is much more powerful than us. And even though Krishna is kind of trying to do something, we can't just do anything. So just they fold their hand and say, you just have to let this play out.
Actually, Krishna describes that. He says that for me, what is more pleasurable than the hymns of the Vedas are the chastisement of the gopis and the sulking of the gopis. That actually gives me more pleasure than the respect and the honor that I receive. You know, when Garuda flaps his wings, then the Vedic hymns come out, and all the demigods, they offer prayers. But Krishna finds greater pleasure in the chastisement of his mother, and also Radharani chastises him. I mean, these gopis, they treat Krishna like with some amount of like, okay, you know, they put him in his place all the time. But Krishna finds greater enjoyment, and the reason why they do that is not because they're acting out of their own self-interest, because they know that that exchange will actually give Krishna pleasure, and it is to ultimately glorify Krishna. So it's a sort of an esoteric topic, and maybe a little difficult to understand. I don't know, Delia.
Yeah, I'm just going to keep listening and see how it makes sense, because saying Krishna derives more pleasure from the chastisement and everything of the gopis makes him sound like a bit of a jerk. You know? Like, I enjoy more when people are upset at me than when people are like happy and loving towards me. But I mean, I know there's more to that, so I'll just
And you know, it's hard to understand because that chastisement is all done like it's a form of rasa. You know, I guess that's the best we can maybe share. It's a form of rasa where it's done out of. It's not done in a spirit. It's not done with that spirit of wanting to chastise. It's done in a spirit of love. So think of it as just play, as divine play.
When sorry, did
Yeah, go ahead.
someone?
No, go ahead, Delia.
Okay. My mother-in-law and I are really close. We really love each other and get along well. And she's an older lady, and she uses a cane. So when we're at the supermarket, when we used to be able to go to the supermarket, each of us have our own cart, and we're each doing our groceries. So when we run into each other, we pretend we don't know each other, and we start kind of being like belligerent towards each other, you know. So I'll be like, hey, old lady, get out of the way, don't you know, you know. And she's like, respect your elders, can't you see I'm here with a cane, etc.
See, there you go. You knew what we're talking about. Yep, that's exactly it.
That's how Krishna talks to the ladies in Vrindavan.
That's how he talks, yeah. And then they say, you know, I mean, it's crazy the things they say. It's like really irreverential.
I
Exactly
just wish the pastimes in Vrindavan lasted longer, because Krishna stayed only for 11 or 12 years in Vrindavan, and the love of Gopas and Gopis, they always keep us wanting for more. I just wish he had stayed longer in Vrindavan and these pastimes continued, you know, even more longer.
But they do.
They are eternal, although in the earthly planet it seems like he was there for 11 years only. But these pastimes are not limited to the earthly planet. They are eternally going on, even when it's not that Krishna has gone away from Vrindavan. It's just that his pastimes they're not visible to us anymore. They are called aprakat lila, which means invisible to our mundane eyes, and they are still going on, even in the earthly planet, and also in the spiritual world. They're continuously going on, and we are able to see them through the eyes of the acharyas when they reveal some of these pastimes, and then only we can access them. Otherwise, we have no access.
You have to read the 10th canto. You have to read the Srimad Bhagavatam, actually. You guys have to get into the Srimad Bhagavatam. Then all these pastimes, you'll be able to actually hear and keep hearing it over and over again. They're very purifying, actually. Tapas Prabhu. You had a question? I saw you had a raised hand. Your voice?
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. No. I mean, I didn't have a question, but I just had one thought. Like, you were telling that how separation can be a fun or can be a memorable experience and all that. I mean, I was just thinking that because I watch a lot of movies, so I generally give examples of movies. I mean, why sometimes tragic movies become such a big hit? No one likes tragedy. No one likes tragedy, but still, and the impact on our feelings, on our heart is so much that we enjoy tragic movies, ek duje ke liye, like, so I'm just giving an example. So I guess, separation is a kind of feeling like that, it basically has much more impact than, even a reunion or something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's, see, the spiritual realm and Krishna, they're both inconceivable. And so we are entering into a realm where, where we, logic sort of, and, because everything about the spiritual realm is inconceivable, right? Just the way, the whole realm is. So it's sort of allowing ourselves to enter into that realm and, just experiencing it. It's more for our own experience. So we cannot really intellectualize it so much. Shama Bhakti, Tarini Ganga, Bhakti Lata, if you guys have anything, and then we'll end. Shashi Prabhu, would like to hear from you also if you have any thoughts. Anything, Tarini?
Not really. It's so amazing to hear. I mean, we heard this before also a few times, but it is still so fresh and new, and it's so sweet to hear and concentrate on these leelas, these pastimes, and it feels our mind becomes so refreshed after hearing all these pastimes.
Yeah, there's a village in Vrindavan apparently where they've been hearing this Govardhan Lila for like every evening. They come together and they hear the same Lila every single evening, and they're still as enthusiastic. They've heard it, I don't know how many, like they've been doing this for years and years now. So these Leelas are a meditation, and they purify the heart. They remove this desire to enjoy this material world. So they're very powerful. And so, yeah, it's also very sweet. Yes, Shashi Prabhu.
So I was wondering about, I'm sorry that again I'll come.
No worries, no worries.
As a half full, glass half full of a guy, but
yes.
I feel like what Krishna was doing was that he really wanted his sexual stimulation. That's why he was trying to experience the chastising, the love and everything.
Yeah.
Which there is nothing wrong in that. But at the same time, in a way, we are forbidden from having that sensual gratification because that accumulates karma for us. So it's kind of a little bit of dichotomy in that he wants to experience, but he doesn't want us to experience. I know I'm in no way I'm equal to the Lord, but in a way, I feel like shouldn't he cut some slack to us because we are also trying to do the same thing that he wanted, right? So why do we get penalized for something that he also wants?
Such a nice question. And I really think that right there lies, right within your question itself lies the answer that actually Krishna does want us to enjoy even more than him. And that is actually why he comes as Lord Chaitanya. The only difference is that he knows that what we want is not possible with matter. This world of matter is limited in its capacity to satisfy us. On the contrary, it is designed, it's like an energy, right? So this energy can never satisfy the soul. So this is why Krishna is saying that, hey, you want to enjoy just like I am enjoying, and in fact, even more than I am enjoying. It's described in Chaitanya Charitamrita that the devotee actually enjoys many times more than even the Supreme Lord. So this is actually the inconceivable nature of Krishna, that it's not that he is enjoying and he wants us to just not have this. He wants us to have that and much more. And that's why he's coming again and again and again and again and urging us and saying, and he's sitting within the heart and he's saying, hey, forget about this material enjoyment, which is so limited anyways. Come back to me. And that's where the real enjoyment is. In fact, just today I was listening to a lecture by Prabhupada, and he was saying that our ability to enjoy, because we are so tiny, we are 1/10,000, the tip of, that's our identity as a spirit soul. We're very tiny. So our capacity for enjoyment is also very tiny. But when we plug into to the one who can enjoy unlimitedly, then our enjoyment also becomes magnified unlimitedly. So Krishna wants us to enjoy with him. He doesn't want us to enjoy in this sort of world of reflection, which is ultimately frustrating for us. So hope that helps. But yeah, I mean, that's...
Yeah, that definitely helps.
He more than wants to cut us the slack. Is like, I've
Yeah.
gone through that whole experience myself. It's like, I'm trying to find the right thing in the wrong place.
Yeah, hopefully we'll plug into that. I mean, I really like, exactly when we experience love or anything, those are such amazing experiences.
There's nothing like
That if it's going to be magnified like 1,000,000 times or 1,000,000,000 times when we plug into him,
absolutely.
it would be really interesting to see.
Yeah, Prabhupada gives another very
I mean, that helps me a lot. I mean, it explains a lot. Thanks.
Thank you very much. All right, so we'll stop here, and we'll happy Diwali to everyone, and happy Govardhan Puja, and we'll see you guys on Monday.
Oh, great invisible saints.
I know everybody is behind the curtain of this impersonal effulgence, There they are. Oh, how nice. We get to see everyone now.
Behind the curtain of Maya Mataji.
Oh, no, you guys are special souls. All of you. You're amazing. There, now we get to see. Now we feel like it's festival.
Yeah.
So thank you very much. And I have to say that because of your prayers, I think because that day Prakash Prabhu made the special prayer, I feel much better. So really grateful to all of you. Your prayers.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Krishna, everyone.
Hare Krishna. Happy Diwali.
Radhe. Our Diwali is not the same, right? Every year we have this amazing Diwali together.
Yeah.
This year is just like,
You can still do it in your mind. You can go through all the motions.
Yeah, right. I can't even imagine how we do that. When we make that Govardhan hill, you cannot do that in the mind. It's such a chaos. I don't know how to recreate that chaos, in the mind. Last minute, we're trying to figure out how to make that mountain,
We'll share some of the pictures from last year with you guys. This work of art.
गैस मेरे रोटी जल रही है, बेटी जाओ गैस बंद कर दो प्लीज.
Okay.
Okay, Hare Krishna, everybody.
Hare Krishna. Happy Diwali.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Happy
Krishna.
Diwali.
Krishna, happy Diwali all.